So, have you ever clicked a button on a website and just wondered what actually happens, behind the curtain? Well, in today's modern applications, that one little click kicks off a wild journey. Your request doesn't just go to one place. It bounces between maybe dozens of different services, all chugging away together in the cloud. And trying to follow the path of that one request, man, it's like searching for a needle in a digital haystack.
All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to start by getting lost in what I call the logging labyrinth, and you'll see why. Then, we'll find our way out with something called a unique digital fingerprint. After that, we'll see how that little fingerprint helps us map the entire journey. We'll get practical and cover how to put this tool, X-Ray, to work. And finally, we'll see the big payoff, going from being completely lost in logs to having total, crystal clear insight.
Okay, let's dive right into Section 1, the logging labyrinth. And to really get a feel for this, we're going to follow a developer. Let's call him Timothy. He is dealing with a headache that is, trust me, way too common when you're working with microservices.
And yeah, this quote from Timothy, it just says it all, doesn't it? Picture this. He's got 6 different browser tabs open, one for each log file. One for the API gateway, another for a Lambda function, maybe another for an SQS queue. And he's just squinting at the screen, trying to manually line up all the timestamps to figure out which one of these things caused a user to wait forever. It is tedious, it's slow, and honestly, half the time, you're just guessing.
This really gets to the heart of the issue. Microservices are this amazing idea, right? The big pro is that everything is decoupled. Your teams can work on their own little pieces, push updates super fast. It's fantastic. But there's a huge con. That same decoupling means a single user click has to travel across all these separate environments. And when something breaks or slows down somewhere along that chain, good luck finding it. The very thing that makes the system so flexible also makes it a nightmare to debug.
So, while Timothy is pulling his hair out, his colleague Margaret comes over and says, there's a better way. And that brings us to Section 2, a unique digital fingerprint. We're about to discover how one single simple ID can tie this whole chaotic journey together using a powerful idea called distributed tracing.
So, what is distributed tracing, really? The absolute best way to think about it is like putting a tiny little GPS tracker on every single request that comes into your system. So instead of playing detective after the fact, digging through a mountain of clues in different log files, you get a single, connected, live map of that request's entire life from start to finish. No more guesswork.
Okay, so how does this magic actually work? Well, it's surprisingly clever. As a request first hits your system, let's say at an API gateway, AWS X-Ray slaps a unique ID on it. Think of it like a digital passport. Then, as that request moves to the next service, like a Lambda function, that passport goes right along with it. And when that Lambda sends a message to a queue, you guessed it, the passport is stamped right onto the message. This whole process is called trace propagation, and a lot of it just happens automatically. It's like a relay race where every runner passes the same baton, so you can always see exactly where it's been.
All right, so we've got this trace ID, this digital passport. Now for the payoff. This is the really cool part. In Section 3, we're mapping the request's journey. We're about to see how that one little ID creates something amazing, the AWS X-Ray Service Map. This is where it all clicks. The big aha moment is coming right up.
Now you're probably thinking, okay, hold on. How does just attaching one simple header solve Timothy's nightmare of having 6 different log files open? I mean, it sounds a little too good to be true, right?
The answer is, it automatically generates a live service map. That's it. All that data from all those little trace IDs gets collected by X-Ray, and it basically becomes a map maker for your application. It draws you a picture, a live diagram of your entire system and exactly how requests are flowing through it. So instead of staring at a wall of text, Timothy is now looking at this incredible interactive map. Each service, the API gateway, the Lambdas, the databases, is a node. The lines between them show the exact path the user's request took. And here's the best part. It's color-coded for instant feedback. The checkout database is green, all good there. But look at that. The inventory database is glowing bright red. There's no more ambiguity. The problem is literally staring him right in the face. With a single click on that red node, the mystery is solved. Boom, 12 seconds. That's the smoking gun, the average response time for that problematic database query. Think about that. He went from potentially hours of frustrating log diving to finding the root cause in, less than a minute? Without opening a single log file.
Okay, this all sounds incredible, right? But I know what you're thinking. How hard is this to set up and what's it going to cost me? Great questions. So in Section 4, let's get into the nitty-gritty, putting X-ray to work. We'll talk about the setup, the cost, and all that good stuff.
And here is the best news. Getting started is way easier than you'd think. For a ton of AWS services like API Gateway or step functions, it is literally just a checkbox. You just toggle it on in the console. For your own code, like in a Lambda function, you just import the X-ray SDK. We are talking about adding a few lines of code, not a massive rewrite of your whole application.
But what about the cost? Because tracing every single request sounds like it would get expensive fast. And you're right, it would. But this is where X-ray is really smart. It uses something called sampling. By default, it doesn't trace everything. It grabs the first request that comes in each second, and then just a small percentage, like 5% of all the other requests. This gives you a statistically perfect picture of what's happening and where the bottlenecks are, without the massive cost of recording every single successful transaction. You get all the insight with a much, much smaller bill.
But what if you want to go even deeper? What if you want to connect system performance to actual business metrics? Well, that's where something called annotations comes in, and this is a total game changer. You can add your own custom data to these traces. For example, you could tag a request with Customer Tier Premium. Now you can filter that entire service map and ask incredibly powerful questions like, show me the performance only for our premium users. Suddenly, this isn't just a debugging tool for engineers, it's a business intelligence tool that tells you exactly how your system's performance is impacting your most important customers.
All right, let's wrap this all up. In our final section, we're going to look at the big picture, from logs to total insight. This is really about the massive, fundamental shift in how we understand and debug our applications.
I mean, the transformation is just night and day, isn't it? Before, you have Timothy drowning in a sea of logs with 6 tabs open, just guessing where the problem might be. It's stressful, it's slow, it's completely reactive. And then, after X-ray, he's looking at one single screen, a map that instantly shows him where the fire is. He's in control. He's gone from just fighting fires to proactively understanding the health of his entire system.
So I'll just leave you with this one thought to chew on. If you could see your entire system's health, all of it, on one single screen, what's that one hidden bottleneck you think you'd find in the first 60 seconds? What's that one slow query or failing service that's been silently frustrating your users for months that you could find just like that? The answer to that question could honestly change everything.